Let's get right to our David P. Shapiro fan hotline, where we are joined here on Ben and Woods by the new manager of the San Diego Padres, Craig Stammen. Craig, congratulations. It's great to have you on the program, and welcome, I guess, back to San Diego, although it kind of feels like you never left.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and you're right about that. It feels like I never left, and it's kind of an extension of where it started back in 2017. Definitely in a much different role right now, and excited for that challenge in this spot as manager of the Padres.
When do you think it's really going to sink in? I know putting the jersey on. Now, I noticed you went away from 34 and went to 14. Was that a conscious decision, or did you just take what they gave you?
When I signed first here as a minor league free agent, I took what they gave me because I was just happy to have a locker or a jersey in my locker. This time around, it was a conscious decision. One is, Michael King's worn 34 the last 2 years and done it very well. It made it look a lot better than I did. And, there's hope, for me,
sure,
that he comes back and can keep wearing that number 34. So that's one part of it. And then 14 was a number I grew up wearing as a kid. I played, football, basketball, baseball. 14 was my number. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go back to those roots and wear the number that I, grew up when I first started loving baseball wearing.
Well, you've already made your first mistake as a man. I mean, what you should have done, you take 34 and then you sell it to Michael King when he resigned. You could have made a fortune. So strike one for the new skipper.
You guys are smart. Michael King actually texted me that like the day that it got announced, and he said, "Dude, you need to wear a 34." And I said, "No, I want you to come back."
Yes,
said, "Dude, I'll just buy you a Rolex and we'll call it a day."
See?
He's like, "You need to do that," and I was like, "I don't need a Rolex. I wear watches." I said, "How about a driver and a box of Pro V1?"
All right, so it leads to my next question, and I had a theory. I had a theory last week because we know what your handicap is, and you're basically a scratch golfer. And I said to Ben, if he's a scratch golfer at the end of the year, we may have a problem here. I don't know that you can do. I'm going to need you to add 7 to 8 to 10 strokes because, you got to be in the clubhouse pouring over numbers and managing talent and all, winning baseball games. Craig, do you think you can do? Do you think you can do both? Is what I want to know.
I'm going to sure try. We've had a lot of presidents in our country that have gotten their handicap in a better spot while being president of the United States. But
I don't know if that's a good thing. That's kind of what I'm saying.
4 kids managing the Padres. Yeah, my golf game's gonna take a hit, no doubt about it. We'll see how good I really am if I can just play, once a month and it's still pretty good, but we'll see.
That's what we wanted to hear, by the way.
That's the right answer. Got spies everywhere. Our buddy Zach at San Diego Country Club gave us the lowdown on your game. So, we're doing all of our homework here. I think we're talking to Craig Stammen, the new manager of the Padres. I think one of the most fascinating parts of the whole hiring process was how you started as part of kind of the interview committee, asking questions of candidates before AJ, as you said, kind of talked you into switching to the other side. But before you switch sides, I wanted to know, what kind of questions were you asking of the other potential Padres managerial candidates?
My mind is in such a different place than what it was 3-4 weeks ago when that process started. I don't even know who that person was back then. It's crazy, how things change and like what you think the next 3 weeks or the next month or the next year or the next 5 years look like for your life, but it has changed dramatically. And honestly, I can't remember one question I asked on any of those interviews, but I do know, like, we had some great candidates, and I was all in on us trying to find the best manager for the Padres. And, that's kind of those conversations, like with AJ and just like breaking down how the interviews went and all that stuff was where he felt like he had his ability to pitch me or sell me the opportunity to interview and be a part of that process. And it wasn't just like you just talked me into this. Okay, I'm in. There was a lot of going back and forth. There was a lot of him being a salesman, a lot of him believing in me in a way that maybe he believed in me more than I believed in myself at that point. So, credit to Josh and AJ for, being those people that believed in me in that way. And then also like kind of offering like, a way for my family to be a part of this and be a part of the plan of the next 5-10 years of the Padres, of it being a decision that we can look back on and say that was the greatest decision we ever made as a family. So it was just such a a different thought process, and something that wasn't on my radar, for a long time, and then all of a sudden it was, and we had to make a very informed decision to say yes to the Padres, which it ended up being rather easy once we laid everything out and got things in order.
Well, now that everything's in order, you got your number, you got your jersey, you start implementing plans. I wanted to ask you because I think one of the main topics of conversation on this show, at least last year, and among the Padres fan base too, was the offense, right? And you look down, you look at the numbers and how the numbers ended, 28th in home runs, and you look up and down the lineup and go, something doesn't add up. It doesn't jive with the talent that we have to be near the bottom offensively. So, you're a relief pitcher. Now you hit, I think, 212 in your career. Not bad. It's actually not bad. But
I think you're sliding me on that. I think I hit better than that.
Did you?
Okay.
I thought I looked it up.
It was like 218.
My bad. 218, 220. Oh, maybe 220. I think that sounds about right. And that makes all the difference.
When Andy Green was the manager, we always joked, he's like, I got to give you more at bats so that you have a lower batting average than I have in my career.
It's a good idea.
And then I kept getting hits, and he's like, all right, we got to stop that.
Well, and so you were a relief pitcher, and I know you remarked in your press conference too that just how few of you have been given this opportunity. So is it something where you come in and you go, look, I'm going to defer to the experts, the offensive experts, whoever that may be, that you guys end up hiring, and they're going to get sink their teeth into it. What is kind of your role as a relief pitcher, now manager, on improving the Padres offense?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it is a lot about relying on the experts and hiring good people, and then empowering them to do their job efficiently and with some freedom. Once we get that hitting department, dialed in, then it's about like creating processes, that will take us through the season. And those processes, we commit to those processes. Hopefully we see daily improvement, and daily improvement hopefully leads to success and more wins on the field. So that's kind of the process that I see. Like, I'm not going in and working on hitting mechanics with anybody. I'm more of like, hey, how are we looking at improving, Jackson Merrill, or how are we looking at improving Tatis's first at bat in the game? How are we maximizing Manny Machado so that he's the same player in April as he will be in September and October? So like just kind of having those big picture ideas, and then allowing those guys to dive in and be experts and be great at what they do. And then also like partnering with the players too, and challenging them to try some new things and be creative, and not just be like, I'm good where I'm at, but have a little bit of a growth mindset of like, hey, maybe I can get just a little bit better at this one area of my game. So that's kind of where I fit into that picture. And I think the biggest part of that is I know a lot of these guys already, and I can have those conversations a little bit quicker than what maybe someone that's new to the organization would be able to.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many questions about that too, and we've talked about it too. Working with guys. If I was Ben's boss, I don't know how that would go, Craig. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know that I could do it. I mean, but those are relationships that you already have. I kind of do feel that it does give you a little bit of a leg up. But when it comes to like, Petco Park's such an interesting place. It's an interesting place, probably great for a pitcher, sometimes not so great for a hitter from that perspective. But, the analytics in baseball, obviously it's a buzzword. I don't know that half the people can actually say what analytics are. They just use it. Some are like spooked by the word entirely. Where do you stand on that buzzword of analytics, and how much will you embrace that to maximize what Petco Park can be for our players?
Yeah, we've got a great department, research and development department, analytics, whatever you want to call it. People that are diving into the numbers, diving into the, biomechanics and the strength and conditioning, all that kind of stuff works together. We're always constantly looking for that one avenue to make one of our players just a little bit better, or, make a process within our team just a little bit better that gives us an advantage on the field. Obviously, Petco Park is an amazing stadium, the best stadium in the big leagues. But it does offer some, struggles for the offense a little bit, when the ball gets up in the air at night. However, there's some home runs. There's still home runs hit in this ballpark.
Yep.
And, we've got to embrace like what this ballpark brings to us. And I know we had the kind of saying of Petco Park hitting last year, and we've still got to embrace that idea of being able to hit in this ballpark and not use it as a crutch. struggling. So I think there's some things that we can dive into and look back and see like what's the best way to create offense in this ballpark and to score as many runs as we can. And you can score runs in many ways, and we're going to figure out all those ways to do that. But the other teams that come in here and hit against us, they're not, maybe they are complaining about it, but they're also trying to score runs too. And it's just, if we can score one more run than they can.
Talking to Craig Stammen, manager of the San Diego Padres. And Craig, over the years, chatted a couple of times, usually, when I had a camera in the clubhouse asking you a question, but it confirmed what everybody always says. You are like almost impossibly nice. So, but to be a manager, are you going to have to set that aside at times? Like when you're arguing with an umpire, do you have that in you? And what's your plan for that?
Yeah. I'm going to always rely on that niceness. There's people in my life that would argue that point.
Okay.
I'm not a perfect human. We'll never be a perfect human. I think part of this job is being able to have tough conversations. But if you can do it with honesty and integrity, that might come across as nice, but you've got to tell the truth, which may not come across as being such a nice guy. I think like this role, like there's an opportunity to, steer guys and not push, maybe not the right word, but like steer them in the right direction, to challenge them to have a growth mindset and to see like, hey, where can I improve my game instead of just staying still. And I think, whether I'm nice or not, who knows? I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it, be myself, and then have those conversations the way I normally have those conversations. Hopefully I get better at them the more I do this job, and then we'll go from there. And if you guys still think I'm nice, that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said earlier in the program, Craig, I said, at the end of the day, I think a manager is ultimately these days, and really in the course of baseball history, you're kind of judged on wins and losses. And, the culture that you want to establish and continue to grow, because I know the culture has been good the last couple of years. I do know that. I mean, we've experienced bad culture here. I know that you've probably experienced bad culture in a locker room when you played. The difference, certainly. And I think you're going to bring a lot to the table in that respect. One thing last year that I noticed is I saw kind of a small ball mentality. And you saw it a little bit in the playoffs, weird kind of sacrifice bunts and people kind of getting excited about, sacrificing for their teammates. And that's all well and good. I get it. Certainly there's a time and place, but your kind of philosophy on guys like Jackson Merrill, guys like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., like those are the big dogs. Like you need those guys to go out and eat, and drive in runs and hit doubles and home runs and things like that. Kind of where do you stand on the small ball mentality? Now, again, I looked it up. You have 12 sacrifice bunts as well, just so you know in your career. But you were probably asked every single time to do that.
Yeah, if you're a bad hitter, you get asked to bunt.
I'm such a great bunter. I'm such a great bunter. You have no idea. That's how bad of a hitter I was. So I get it.
Yeah, that's why I was a pitcher. You know, eventually it was a bunter. So yeah, the way I look at that, like we've got great players. We got to allow those players to be great. And there's certain players in our clubhouse that love those moments, love those opportunities to change the game, and we got to allow them to change the game. Now, is bunting still a part of baseball? Yeah, there's ways to create runs in certain situations with certain hitters at the plate and certain runners on bases and certain situations where like we could use small ball, and we've been effective at that, as a team. But I also think like we can take some opportunities to take some shots and hopefully improve on that. You spoke about the home run, where we ranked in the league in home runs, and I think we all agree we got the talent on the team to be better than that. And we're going to work to see what's best for our team and create an offense that's best for our personnel, and manage them that way. And, hopefully that leads to us being a little bit more productive on the offensive side.
Craig, really appreciate it. It was great to get a chance to talk to you here for the first time. Hopefully it won't be the last time. I'd love to have you on as often as possible through the upcoming season.
Better not be the last time.
I know. Before you go, though, Woods has one last question because he was struck by one thing in particular at the news conference. You remember what it was?
Oh, very much. I've got a 7-year-old boy and a just turned 5-year-old boy, and I stared at that sounds weird to say I stared at your children, but I watched your children watching you in the press conference. And I also noticed how well behaved they were. And I wondered what sort of sedation do you guys use in the Stammen family to sedate two boys, by the way, that sat there?
I wish you guys could have seen them the 20 minutes before they walked into that interview room, because it was like WWF with the ownership in the boardroom. It was crazy. And my little brother, he's got 3 kids of his own. He brought a bunch of Smarties. So they were sedated with Smarties, sugar, candy.
You went the opposite way. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we kept them satisfied, put it that way, and they did a great job.
They did.
Maybe that's all the days that we've gone to church together. We made them come along with us. So,
yeah, I mean, because it's impossible in my home. There's no way they say. Yeah. Even if I'm being, they're like, you're the new manager of the Padres. Like, they could not behave themselves for that long, and I was very impressed. Look forward to hearing more about them. As we get to know each other more.
Smarties for home runs. That's what I think this season.
Yeah, Smarties for home runs. That's a good idea.
Craig, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
There's Craig Stammen, new manager of the Padres, on our David P. Shapiro fan hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys, helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com.